Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days. For today's video, this takes us pretty much to the end of September, and in terms of a GFS, we'll extend out into the early part of October actually with this video. So we're in a more unsettled phase now, and this is going to stay with us over the next few days. But next week, high pressure will be getting more influence, returning back in from off the Atlantic, although the air within that high pressure is going to be quite cool. So probably into cold nights, maybe with some fog patches through next week, but reasonably pleasant days in the late September sunshine. So I'll take you through everything that's going on in a moment. We've got our second named storm of the season now. Storm Brona has been announced by the UK Met Office, so I'll talk you through what to expect with that, and then we'll have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days as well. So I'm going to begin with the announcement from the UK Met Office. This is their tweet from earlier today, saying that Storm Brona follows hot on the heels of Storm Ali as a second named storm of the 2018-19 season. So it's already with us. It's not producing too much in way of wind at the moment, but there is a lot of wet weather with this. Some really heavy rains moving in from the Atlantic across Ireland, across the Irish Sea, to much of Wales, into the north and west Midlands, and increasingly now pushing up into parts of northern England as well. You see there's some very bright echoes in with that, indicating some quite torrential bursts of rain. The south and southeast hanging on to dry weather through the rest of today, but this rain will push across overnight tonight, and it's not only going to bring heavy rain, but tonight it will also bring strong winds as well. These are the facts charts out of the human interpretations of models by forecasters at the UK Met Office. So it's this weather front just here that is producing that band of heavy rain at the moment, but the low pressure that's developing along this front will develop into Storm Brona through the rest of today and into tonight as well. That's a facts chart for 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. You can see by that point we've developed an actual area of low pressure along that front. That warm front and then the cold front just there is the front that kind of like strung out across England and Wales at the moment. It's developed into an area of low pressure through the course of the afternoon and evening today, and by tomorrow morning it's in the North Sea just off the east coast. Notice very tightly packed isobars with this, so not only will there be heavy rain swinging across the country, this cold front is an active cold front, but will take heavy rain even down into the parts southeast. So going to be wet tonight, but not only that, also windy as well, properly wet and windy. I think we see gusts of wind quite widely up to around 30-40 miles an hour, and some places, particularly kind of like northern England, maybe parts of Wales, I think there we can expect overnight to be seeing gusts of wind possibly up to 50 or 60 miles an hour. That is gale force, and after Ali, that will cause more structural damage and probably blow down a few more branches and possibly trees as well. So pretty wild on the east coast first thing tomorrow morning as Storm Brona is clearing away. This twig-like feature just here is a convergence area. That's telling us that there's more enhanced shower conditions coming through on those west to northwesterly wind. That chart for midday tomorrow shows we're in a cold or a cool, showery northwesterly wind. The worst of the winds moving away into the North Sea, but it's going to be a windy day tomorrow. We've got these little fronts in the flow just enhancing the shower risk. That's particularly for the northwest. With winds turning northerly, we may get the first flakes of snow falling of the season over the Scottish mountains through the course of tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. That's fairly typical for particularly the second half of September. You do often find the first wintry falls turning up in the mountains at this time of the year. Now we've got these problems for Sunday. So this facts chart for midnight on Sunday, where we've got this area of low pressure out to the west of us. Again, very similar situation to the one at the moment. We've got this strung out weather front. It's developing an area of low pressure along it just there to the south of Ireland at midnight on Sunday, and how much that low pressure develops and how far north it pushes is causing real problems. This facts chart then for midday on Sunday, and you'll see that by that point the low pressure is just off the southeastern coast. It doesn't look all that much on the facts chart, really. It's restricting most of the wet weather to the far southern part of the country, and it's not developing the low pressure as much as we were seeing in some of the output a day or so ago. So I don't think that will be a named storm if that came off. If it was named, it would be Storm Callum. But as that shows it, I don't think that would be a named storm. However, other models are still making more of this low pressure than like the forecasters of UK Met are making of it with these charts at the moment. So have to keep a close eye on it. At the very least, it will probably bring some very wet weather to southern parts of the country. It's an active front, so there could be like an inch, maybe a couple of inches of rain out of this for some limited locations, which is enough to produce localised flooding. But if the low pressure develops more, it could possibly bring in some gales or severe gales. We've just got to wait and see. I think we'll know by tomorrow how much this low pressure is developing and how far north it's going to push. But certainly we are in a much more unsettled phase of weather at the moment. This centering temperature from Hadley provisional up to yesterday, 19th of September, we're standing at 15.2, an anomaly of just over 1 degree above average. I think that's about as high as it's going to get now. We're having a very cool day across the Midlands and central England today, and the temperatures aren't going to get particularly exciting over the next few days, so I expect this to move downwards over the coming days, and next week we could get some quite significant lowering of this if we start getting those cold nights, particularly focusing on Sunday night to Monday, and then Monday night to Tuesday, possibly Tuesday night to Wednesday, all maybe have a risk of ground frost, and that will lower the temperature quite a bit. So again, I think we're going to finish up with a CT somewhere in the 14s, but it's not out of the question that this could finish up actually in the high 13s for September, so we have to wait and see on that. These are 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University for the next week to 10 days, 7 to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the top. The GFS, which have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom, 500 millibars. 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere. High pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream. Red extrapolates to high pressure, blue to low pressure. You can see that the ECMWF has this ridge of high pressure out to the west of the UK. The black lines are the jet stream, they're generally to the north, but then also diving southwards rather like that. So we are blocking off the Atlantic in the 7 to 10 day time frame. It's not going to be particularly unsettled, but with high pressure locating or relocating to our west, we could well start to bring down cooler air from sort of a northwesterly type direction. So cooler into early October perhaps, but also still relatively dry. GFS looks like this, and again we have this area of above average heights over and sort of centred over top of the UK. Actually, it's not as much to the west with that in the 7 to 10 day time frame as the ECM is showing. Low pressure is up to the north. The jet stream indicated by the black lines coming across the Atlantic, rather like that. So relatively settled, but I still think quite cool under that ridge of high pressure as we go to the end of September and the beginning of October. GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles looking like this. Looking at London today, generally looking quite cool now actually. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. We're starting still in the southeast, warmer than average for today. We're just clinging hold of the warm upper air temperatures just for today. But tomorrow you see the big slide is taking place, going quite cool through tomorrow and over the weekend as well. That little tick up there in the upper air temperatures just associated with the low pressure I showed you on the facts charts that's running across the south, bringing risk of some very wet weather. And then once that gets out of the way, temperatures drop again. Now through the early and middle part of next week, the upper air temperatures are lifting up. That's under a ridge of high pressure though. So not necessarily becoming all that warm on the surface, but certainly upper air temperatures do lift up for a time through the course of next week. But then they're dropping down again, and actually this early part of October, it's in the extended range, but this first week of October is now looking potentially rather cool, you would have to say, with most of the GFS samples going below average. Precipitation-wise, this is the wet weather that will be pushing across the country tonight, associated with Storm Brona, and then these precipitation spikes could bring a lot of wet weather in across the south late Saturday and through Sunday. Again, a lot of uncertainty about that system. After that, through to the end of September, largely drier than average for England and Wales, largely dry. Will be more unsettled up in the north. The first week of October not only cooling down, but also potentially turning a bit more unsettled as well. Temperature anomalies from the 20th through to 28th of September are coming out cooler than average for the UK and Ireland. This is a big change on what we've had over the past few months, really. So cooler than average temperature anomalies from the 20th through to the 28th of September. And many parts of Europe look like it's cooling down there as well. Still a bit warmer than average, but nowhere near as warm as it has been. You'll notice Spain and Portugal, though, a bit of an autumn heat wave going on there, very substantially hotter than average in the southwest of Europe. But most other areas cooling down to nearer normal. UK, Ireland and Norway, also Iceland, going cooler or colder even than average. Precipitation anomalies for Scotland and Northern Ireland turning out to be a little bit drier than average. For England and Wales, though, turning out to be a little bit wetter than average, quite interestingly. Right, so this is how the GFS is looking then from start to finish. We're beginning today, and this system just here is Storm Brona, named by the UK Met Office, will be bringing wet and windy conditions through this afternoon and into tonight. By 6 o'clock in the morning, low pressure that is Storm Brona is in the North Sea. We've got gale force winds across particularly northern and northeastern parts of England at that point. Very windy elsewhere with showers following those heavy outbreaks of rain. That Saturday, we built this very slight transient ridge across the country from Friday through to Saturday. This low pressure just here is what's causing all of the headaches for this weekend. Will that develop into a major system, or will it just be a slider low that runs across the south? Let's see what the GFS does. Well, it develops it into quite a area of low pressure by 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Not particularly windy, but there will be a lot of wet weather with this. It's further north than the FACS charts as well, so the front with that is kind of light through that area, bringing generally just a lot of wet weather to England and Wales from Saturday into Sunday. The strongest winds are on the southern flank, and so through the Channel into the northern France, so there may be gale force winds there, but if it comes off like that shows, it's primarily a rain event that we're looking at across England and Wales from Saturday and into Sunday. As the low clears away, it may produce some strong winds across East Anglia and southeastern parts of England, but I emphasise again, a lot of uncertainty about that. By Monday, the ridge of high pressure moving back in from off the Atlantic, settling things down, but within cool air, we've brought down the air from the North Atlantic around this high pressure. So under the ridge, I expect clear skies at night, possibly producing ground frost and maybe mist and fog patches as well, but pleasantly warm by day in the late September sunshine. Middle part of next week possibly just starts bringing some slightly warmer air up from the south temporarily, but it doesn't last all that long. By the end of next week, we're back to those cooler sort of west to northwesterly winds again, with high pressure centred out to the west, southwest of the country. We head up to day 10 and we look like that. This is Sunday, 30th of September, with high pressure out to our west. We're bringing down this west to northwesterly winds, so reasonable amount of dry weather for the southern western parts of the country, possibly a bit showery up in the north. Temperatures, I wouldn't have thought any better than average, and possibly even a little bit on the cool side. In the more extended range, this high pressure moves up towards the northern Atlantic through the first days of October, turns the winds into the north. That might bring, if it came off, wintry showers to northern parts of Scotland. More significantly, maybe the first air frost of the season could be possible there through the first days of October. And then right to the very end of the GFS run, it looks like we begin to go into a more changeable type pattern. But again, not overly mild, possibly even quite cool, particularly so for northern parts of the country. This low pressure just here will probably move in that sort of direction, and the ridge again is out in the middle of the Atlantic. That heads up to there. Then as this low pressure exits, we will probably turn the wind back into the north. So it could be shaping up for quite a cool start to October here, actually. This is how the ECM is looking. Now, notice much further north with this area of low pressure at midnight on Sunday. So there is all kinds of problems going on with this low pressure over the weekend. We can only move in 24 hourly steps with the ECM. So that's where it is at midnight on Sunday. That's where it is at midnight on Monday. Quite an intense feature over Denmark. So it looks like this has actually moved through the central swathe of the country, trying to fly from Ireland across northern England into that sort of position by midnight on Monday. That could bring gale force winds actually to many parts of England and Wales, and the heavy rain would be further north as well, probably affecting southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern England. So much more of a major feature, I think, from the ECM compared to the GFS and the UK Met Office facts charts, just telling us again that there is a lot of uncertainty for this weekend. That low pressure goes spiralling off into eastern parts of Europe by Tuesday, moving very quickly indeed. High pressure ridges in from the Atlantic within cool air, so expect some cold nights with risk of ground frost. And then through the course of next week, basically we just keep high pressure in control of the weather. But it's relocating out to the west of the country. So by day 10, which is the final day of September, we've got the high pressure out to our west. We've got a trough over Scandinavia, and we bring down quite a cool northerly wind actually. And again, that's hinting perhaps at quite a chilly start to October, to say the least. And then finally, we've got the GM. This is a little bit further south again with that low pressure. This is midnight Sunday. Low pressure's down here, but weather fronts in that sort of position. So further south with the outbreaks of rain on the Canadian. It would bring very wet weather to southern parts of the country, not overly windy with that either. Then we go through to midnight on Sunday. That low pressure has moved into Germany, so it's all a little bit further southwards. Our tight back isobars bow on the western side of that low pressure, so as it exits the southeast through Sunday, particularly Sunday afternoon, it might bring down some gales into East Anglia and southeastern parts of England. So again, it's all just up in the air for this weekend with this area of low pressure. After that, we build the high pressure in across the country, so settling things down with quite cold nights coming up with that one. Then even more extended rain, same as the other models, we locate or relocate the high pressure out to our west into the middle of the Atlantic. That looks like it's the final day of September, day 10. It looks like it's setting up a northerly there. We've got the high pressure ridging into the North Atlantic, got this low pressure to the north of Scotland. There's a cold front that's in that sort of position. As that moves through, I think it would turn the winds into the north. So the low pressure would move into Scandinavia, and you'd turn winds into the north as you push this ridge up to there. So again, all models really hinting that we could have quite a cool, maybe even cold start to October. We might get our first air frost of the season through the first week of October. Talking of October, just finished with this. This is how the CFS at the moment is seeing October playing out. This is 700 millibar height anomaly. So that's actually into quite an unsettled month. The above average heights are out to the west in the middle of the Atlantic. Below average heights up to the north. I think we're bringing the jet stream pretty much through the country. So it's hinting at potentially quite an unsettled and potentially quite cool October. That the air is coming from the northern Atlantic, it's coming out of Greenland in that sort of direction. We've got the ridge in the central Atlantic, so possibly we might be having to think about October maybe being our first colder than average month since March. We haven't had a colder than average month since March. There's only been 2 this year, which is February and March. Will October be our third? I wouldn't totally rule it out based on some of the output we're seeing at the moment. It's very, very early days, and of course the shorter range stuff is only extending into the first days of October, and it's in the unreliable time frame of those shorter range ones as well. So let's just wait and see. We're doing GMA Friday tomorrow. The month head look ahead will perhaps give us a clearer idea about whether a colder than average month could be in the works for October. So more on that tomorrow. In the more immediate time frame, when we've got this burst of unsettled weather, Storm Brona today, tonight into tomorrow morning will bring the risk of more disruptive winds and heavy rain. And then, of course, all of the question marks about how wet and windy it's going to get over the weekend. I think we'll know tomorrow what's happening there. Then next week, high pressure's back, settling things down, but quite cold with that high pressure, with a chance of some pretty chilly nights, especially through the early part of the week. Right, that's what you got to take with all of the developments, and that's all for now. Thanks for watching.